Welcome to the second tutorial on the landscape generator. In this tutorial we will hopefully get to the tree settings and, if we have time, to the water settings, but we will mainly stick to the terrain detail settings. Last tutorial we've gone over the general settings and the terrain settings, and we have generated terrain out of them. So now that we've generated terrain, we want to make sure generate separately is turned on for now, and we are going to go to our grass textures in the terrain detail settings. So the terrain details are the tall grass on the terrain, and that is only what they are. The detail, if you want objects on your terrain, that is what the detail object settings are, and that will most likely be in the third tutorial. So if you want to skip ahead and watch that, you can. And if you are watching and you are new to this, I highly recommend you watch the first one on the general settings and the use multiple terrains and all of that stuff. So, in this tutorial we are going over how to do terrain details. So, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put in our grass textures, and it will select the first grass texture, and generate it. Once we have that, we're going to want to put in our healthy colors, and that is the healthy color on the terrain. And if you want to know here, you can look the healthy color, and that's what these do, is we're basically just setting these options here. So we are going to want to go to our dry colors, and I recommend to keep them on white. If your grass is already colored, then you're going to want to keep them on white, because it's going to be that color truly. It just adds color to it. It doesn't change the color of it. It doesn't make it grayscale. The noise spread is how diverse your grass is. The bend factor is how much your grass will bend. The detail height is basically how tall or how short it can be and how tall it can be, X and Y. The detail width is, if we hover over it, the X is the minimum and the Y is the max. Yep, it shows you that. That's good. So it's the same thing, but with the width. And the rendering type is, you want either set to grass, which is not billboarded, or grass billboard. Vertex lit is for objects, and we do not want that, because we're only using grass. So make sure you set details enabled to be true. That will put grass on your terrain when you generate. So we're going to generate terrain, and now we can see that we have grass on the terrain. And now there is not a good way currently in my version of Unity. Actually, I have two terrains now. I'm going to destroy that. Generate again. Currently, to put grass on different textures, so until I figure that out, that might come in an update, and I'm sure it will. We have grass on everything, but it does look nice. So if you want a meadow feeling, that would be nice. Otherwise, you could put it on yourself or make a custom terrain in which you can still generate trees and details with that. Now take note that generate details is for the detail objects, okay? And when you generate your terrain, it will also generate the terrain detail settings. And that's why we have this details enabled check here. The detail resolution is how compact your details are, so if I set this to like 64, oh, and if you hover over it, it says it has to be a multiple of 8, as you can see there. So if we set it to 64, it's going to be very, very compact. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of it. So that's our detail resolution, and it's starting to lag actually, so we don't want that. Keep it at 32 if you're using a normal procedural terrain. I recommend that. I recommend all of these settings as default for your procedural terrain. Okay, so that wasn't too complicated. Oh, and if you're worried about this procedural terrain here that we've generated, how it has these settings already inputted here, you might say, well, you didn't actually make a terrain system that did this. Yes, I did. I just already have these preset here, so it doesn't have to do any adding already, because I've already pre-generated a terrain a procedural terrain when you come here, so you can just put that in and generate it, and it doesn't have to do as much work for you. But it does generate it. So let's say we want a different grass texture on here. Let's put this grass texture on here, enable it, and generate a new terrain. Now see, we have a different grass texture. As we can see here, it went to our grass textures and changed the grass texture to that texture. And it does the same with the textures themselves. So, yes, it does work. I'm going to just switch it back though, because I like this one. But I don't... I just finished it. I'll go over the finish button in the third tutorial. Okay, so now that we know what that does, we're going to generate a new terrain, just to have something to look at. So now we want trees. Like, we want trees around here, and we also want water, right? Because that's what the sand is for. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go to our trees, and we're going to want to set those. Now, if you already got the environment package, they're going to be set for you, and it's going to be all great. You don't have to do anything. But the trees have some special cool features here, where you can set the minimum and maximum heights of them. And basically what this does is, for these specific trees, so for the broadleaf desktop version here, it'll set the minimum X position in world space of that tree can spawn to 0, the Y to be 32, and the Z to be 0. So, yes. So, if it's 0, you might be saying, well, isn't it just going to generate it right here every single time at 0, 0? No. Because if it's 0, it's going to automatically set the max to be 1,000 and 1,000. Okay, so now that we have that down, this basically just makes a bounding box. So this is like, sorry, I explained that wrong. Should go over that again. So it's only for the max, basically. So 0, 0, if it was set to 0, 0, and 0, 0, it would only generate it here. But the generator is better than that, and it knows that, hey, it's 0, it's not going to generate it, so it sets the maximum value to be there. So basically it makes like a box. So say we have 1 point here and 1 point here. So we're going to have the broadleaf desktop spawn from here to here and not over in these segments, because we have set the min and max to be that. So this is a very powerful system because you can generate basically different biome areas on it. The tree max slope is basically the maximum slope it can be right now, and basically right now the slope system kind of works. It doesn't work too well though, so I don't recommend changing these values. But if you do want to figure out something that will work with the slope, guess what? You're in luck, because if you really want the slope, you can go to your trees, and mass place trees, once you have trees there, will actually generate things on not on a steep slope. So that's pretty cool. Okay, now we've gone through these 4 settings. I will go to these settings and then to the water. So the number of trees basically is the number of trees you're going to have on your terrain. And what's cool about this is for the detail objects and the trees, you can set a procedural number of trees. So it will take the width and length of your terrain, and it will do some math. It will divide it out, and it will figure out just the right number of trees to have on your terrain. So you can see here, let's generate some trees. So as you can see, it didn't reset this, because that is a number that you set yourself, but it did generate a good number of trees. You can kind of see the bounding box thing here. The palm trees will not be up high where the conifers are, but the conifers will not be down here, and that's the same with the broadleaf mobile and the broadleaf desktop. So you can set the heights of the tree that way too. So this is the min height and the max height here of the broadleaf desktop. And now you might say, well, the max height is 0. It does the same thing. It just basically sets the max height to be the maximum height that the terrain is, okay? And it'll generate it there. Well, it won't generate it there. It'll generate it between the min and the max. Okay, so now we have a lot of trees, like a lot of trees, and they're all objects. And the reason I made them objects and not terrain objects is because you can apply physics to these objects, which is really neat. So if I wanted to go to this tree, for example, this tree over here, and I want to just have a rigid body and fall over, I could do that because I can basically edit them all I want now. I can put it upside down if I wanted to. I don't know why I'd ever want to do that, but you can. Okay, now that we have that done, we've gone over procedural tree number. Yes. And now we're going to go over the wind power. So basically, it adds a wind zone every time you generate trees. Okay, it doesn't add a wind zone, it updates it if you already have it here. And this will basically provide wind to your trees and your grass. So this is very important, obviously, and you can set the wind power to be this here, and it'll set the main turbulence to be whatever you set the wind power to be. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my trees, and let's go to the water. So we're going to generate some water, and as you can see, there's already water here because if you have imported the environment package, you will know that it has, if we go to waters here, it has this Water Pro Daytime, and I just made a demo version of that in my landscape generator. Take some material from the environment package, and we have instant water. But if you want a different one, you could set this to any other water. So let's see what we want here. Water basic, water force simple. Let's go to Water Pro nighttime. Okay. Now there's a problem. As you can see here, we haven't generated the water. Right, there's the water. There's a problem. It's not that big. Well, if you just take it, zoom out a bit, hit R, or press this button here, take the center white thing and scroll it out, you have instant water at the correct level. There we go. Now that we have water in, we'll keep the nighttime water there. You can see that our time is almost up. So the water height basically is the water height of the terrain, and the sand height should be more than the water height if you want the sand to be above the water. So yeah, there you go. And if you have multiple water objects, it'll select one at random. So there you go. That is the terrain detail settings, tree settings, and water settings for tutorial 2. See you next time in tutorial 3 for the landscape generator package.